All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy football video. Going to be breaking down, well, just a best ball draft here for you guys, then giving you guys my favorite takes and kind of bold takes, I guess, throughout that draft process. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to just do the best ball mania draft here for you guys and then just give you my pick by pick breakdown for this. But before I get into that, I do remind you guys that if you have never signed up for Underdog and that is something you think you want to do, just use the promo code 9to5. Right now, I believe it is still a deposit match of actually up to $250 instead of $100. That's going to be ending, I believe, at the end of the month here, but you can still take advantage of that for now, depending on when you're watching this video, I guess. So with that, let's go ahead and get into this draft. And so right away, while this draft is filling, I can just kind of go over the first round picks as a whole. So for best ball draft purposes, as it sits right now, I am fine going with CMC as the first overall pick because to me, he is clear and by far the best option at the running back position. The one concern that you might have with him is that he has had now back-to-back seasons of over 300 plus total opportunities and touches. And so the more a running back starts to get over that number, and really once it starts to get over 350, that does really start to tack on in terms of predictable injuries. And so that might be the only reason why you would skip out on him. But I don't think we need to worry about that because one of my biggest takeaways thus far this season is that you can really go ahead and get any handcuff basically for free. And most years I would not recommend doing that, but this year is a little bit different where we can kind of break those rules. And typically speaking, the reason why you would not want to do a handcuff is because that handcuffs your upside. And if you are someone that is doing multiple drafts, then that upside is what you want to focus on the most, that ceiling, not that floor. And so in years past, that is something I would not have recommended. But given how much these handcuff players that could hold RB1 upside if the starter gets injured, and because of how late they're going, I think you can get away with that this year, not only at running back, but also at the receiver spot as well. And so after CMC, I don't really have a problem with any of these top receivers. You got CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I would argue Puka should be ahead of that group as well. Puka should be probably ahead of ASB as well. And then AJ Brown. And then I think there's a gap. Then you go back to Bijan, Breece Hall. And then I'm probably going Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor. I will say this range right here, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, I don't like them. I haven't been getting into them really at all because to me, all these receivers right here are kind of the same. Now, Brandon Ayuk, I would say, is better. Chris Olave, better options than those guys, but they are all kind of the same. And so I don't really care which one I get. And I would almost rather go with Devon Achane or Kyron Williams because of their upside and because I can get like values at the receiver position much later on. Like, what's the difference between Devonta Smith and Drake London? Drake London maybe has an improved offense. I get that, but people are hoping that he's going to be better on field than what he has shown thus far. Marvin Harrison, we haven't seen yet as well. Nico Collins, we don't exactly know what to expect. So got about 2 more until this draft fills. I can go ahead and break that down a little bit further. And I should call out that I do like the idea of stacks this year. This year thus far in best ball drafts, whether it be on DraftKings or Underdog, it's been extremely easy to complete any sort of stack, really depending on what your first round pick is or second round pick for that matter. So it's very easy to make that work. All right, so the draft board is full. And all right, I have pick 3, which is a pick spot that I haven't had too often. So this will be interesting. But right away, guys, I will be able to easily stack CeeDee Lamb with Dak if I want to, and then also Jake Ferguson. If I go Hill, I should easily be able to get to Tua and possibly even Jalen Waddle or even Devon Achane if I choose to do so. Jamar Chase, maybe a little bit more difficult. Joe Burrow, I kind of worry about him potentially coming into the season still banged up, but I'd be fine with that pick. And then I actually really think Justin Jefferson is a sneaky stacking option. So Justin Jefferson, you could easily go with Sam Darnold, who I actually think will be the starter for up until like week 7 after their bye, which is also when I expect TJ Hawkinson to be healthy after their bye week in week 7. So maybe you go JJ McCarthy there as well. Wow. Okay. So I'm perfectly fine going CeeDee Lamb. I have actually not been able to do that thus far. So CeeDee Lamb is going to be my first overall pick with pick 3. Again, I don't really have an issue with any of those other picks there because in my head, they are all solid options as well. And so my biggest concern really with round 1 is where Garrett Wilson is kind of going and Breece Hall. One, you typically can't pair those two together and then potentially run out Aaron Rodgers later in the draft. We saw what happens when Aaron Rodgers gets injured. Those two players become vastly overdrafted. There is a little bit of a concern there, but I kind of like the first round thus far. A.J. Brown, I feel like, is a safe, reliable pick there at pick 10, as well as Puka. Again, I think you could argue Puka should actually be going before St. Brown. I don't really get the hate for Justin Jefferson. I know rookie quarterback. I actually don't mind Sam Darnold, so I'm kind of maybe a little bit higher on the field than him, but again, we're not making that many differences. And so the biggest worry that I have with the first round thus far is going to be Drake London. I feel like people are hoping that he's a better play than really what he looks like on paper this season. Obviously, with Kirk Cousins there, people are expecting him to take a big advantage. I kind of think that a lot of last year, Arthur Smith was kind of the scapegoat. I mean, Desmond Ridder was terrible. Kyle Pitts was a little bit banged up last year. They kind of used him as a scapegoat. I actually think the Steelers offense could be a little bit better. And really, we kind of saw maybe the Atlanta Falcons GM and Smith just didn't see eye to eye. We'll see. But that's a big worry to me. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, I don't like this. This is too risky for me back to back. If you're taking Drake London, like you should almost take a safe pick. Marvin Harrison Jr., not a safe pick there as well. We have not seen him play. I don't like to take rookies. That's like the biggest mistake. And that's one of the biggest things I have seen thus far, guys, is that rookies are going vastly too high. Look at Zach Charbonnet last year. He was someone that if he was a rookie this year, probably would be going 2 rounds earlier. But this is what I mean. I love being able to get Chris Olave late. Devontae Adams should be solid. Diggs, I would agree, is the top Houston player that I want over Nico, over Joe Mixon, and over Tank Dell, and even CJ Stroud. But that's just a guessing game. And you can't really stack Houston at all. That's a big issue, is that you can't stack Houston. And so I don't exactly like doing that. Nico Collins then goes. And yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't see it. I don't see it. And I've talked about this in a different video. The Green Bay Packers are going vastly later than the Houston Texans. And it's just like Packers might be a better offense on paper. And it's just weird that that's happening. All right, so I am 1 pick away. Got to see what happens here with this pick, but I might end up going. And so this is where I kind of regret maybe not going with Tyreek Hill because I could easily get to Jalen Waddle, but it's wide open with what I could do here. I'm probably going to go Kyren Williams here just because I like being able to stack him later on in drafts, but I don't see a mistake here. It's just how I see it fit. Saquon's fine as well. Now, let's just go with Barkley for now. It feels safe. Going to be in a better offense than he was last year. And so I'm fine going Saquon there. You look at last year, guys, Giants were one of the worst teams in terms of blocking last year. And now he goes to the Eagles, who is basically the polar opposite. So maybe we worry about Barkley potentially getting injured again. But I think that's crazy that Barkley went that much later than Gibbs and also Jonathan Taylor. And so I actually might end up going double RB here at the turn. If I can get Kyren here, that's huge to me. And so I can. So I'm going to go Kyren Williams. A lot of people are making a big case about Blake Corum as a potential someone that's going to take work away from him. I am not worried about it. People might be worried about this foot injury. He seems to be ready to go as well for the season. And so I'm actually very happy with this draft thus far. So again, Kyren Williams is a pick that I feel like is just going later because people are scared. People were not on him last year. Obviously, I was someone that was telling you guys to be on him last year. I was not a Cam Akers believer. Actually, at this time last year, people were telling you guys to draft Zach Evans as the top LA Rams running back. And that was just like, yes, people love rookie running backs. And we saw that last year in this exact spot. I actually think it's going to be Ronnie Rivers as the RB2. And the reason why I think that is because Rivers actually got playing time in the playoffs last year, and he was their RB2 last year. He was why they felt comfortable getting rid of Cam Akers last year. And Kyren, obviously, that's a good thing. When they both got injured in the same week, what did they do? They didn't turn to a rookie running back in Zach Evans or Myles Gaskin. They actually turned to Darrell Henderson, who they picked up and signed. And what does that tell us? That tells us that Sean McVay needs to have trust in his running back. Sean McVay wants to have a kind of running back by committee, but he has never really been able to commit to that Darrell Henderson's a good example of that. We might see a situation where Korn maybe becomes a little bit more of the goal line back, but Kyron Williams was very good at doing that, so I don't see that happening. That's kind of my one issue, I guess, with Rivers. My Rivers take is that he will never be a goal line back. Like, he is just Kyron Williams 2.0, which a lot of people are saying Blake Corum is Kyron Williams 2.0. That's fine. You could also argue the other running back that they picked up, Boston Scott, is also exactly the same. Sean McVay has developed that he has a type, and so that is what we are seeing now. So the thing that I'm calling out about Ronnie Rivers is, if I'm drafting Kyron Williams, like I have done a decent amount, I am loading up on Ronnie Rivers in the last round because he's going undrafted. And if you're talking about a undrafted player in best ball drafts, that theoretically, if Kyron Williams were to get injured, and I'm right about the Ronnie Rivers situation, we could be getting a RB1 undrafted. And again, people right now might be thinking I'm crazy. That's fine. We saw this exact same situation play out last year, and I'm kind of okay with that. So to me, he is still the RB2 until proven otherwise. And I think that's a decent strategy to go with. Until these rookies prove otherwise, go with the players that are already there that have been productive as well. And I'll show you guys, I'll talk about that with some receivers later on as well. So let's get caught up with the draft board here. So overall here, Malik Neighbors, that seems like a reach. Again, rookies go earlier than they should in a bunch of cases. I probably wouldn't take Malik Neighbors until honestly the 5th round. He's not someone I get into. Don't trust Daniel Jones. Will say I do feel bad for the Eagles. Okay, the Eagles have had it rough. Sterling Shepard's been someone that's been injured. Tony was someone that's been injured who they drafted. All talented players that just continue to get injured. Robinson as well, Darren Waller. So maybe he breaks that streak. But after that, I'm kind of fine with the picks that happened. Josh Jacobs is one that's crazy to me, guys. Josh Jacobs could arguably be a first-round pick. I think most years he would be a borderline first-round pick. And for whatever reason, I'm on the clock. On the clock here, Dallas. Terry McLaurin, I'm happy to take Terry here. I'll get into that pick in just a second. But like, they drafted a running back that's Josh Jacobs 2.0. They want to have someone that's similar to Josh Jacobs. Now, why did they bring in Josh Jacobs? Because they need to alleviate some of the goal line pressure that Jordan Love had. Jordan Love had a bunch of passing touchdowns last year because they didn't have anyone that could punch it in. You would think A.J. Dillon would be that back. He is not. And so I think Josh Jacobs could really dominate this season. It's not like he lost a step. It's not like he got worse. That Raiders offensive line was just terrible somehow last year. It was weird. And he still looked good. He still looked elite. Oh, man, James Cook, what a great pick there. I like that pick a lot. I'll get into that in a second here as well. But my next pick here, so this is kind of a weird, kind of somewhat dead range to me. I'm happy to go Hollywood Brown here, though, because I think he is going to be the receiver number 1 here for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a little bit banged up. That's the worry here. That's why they got him for a discount. The last 2 years he's been banged up, but I love that pick, so I'm going to go with Hollywood Brown. So far my receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, and then Hollywood Brown. I'm perfectly happy with that. When I pair it with Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, not the best draft ever. Pick 3 spots, kind of weird, but I'm okay with it. I kind of like this so far. But yes, let's get caught up on these picks. Sam Laporta, I kind of have a hot take on him. It's my issue with Sam Laporta is that a lot of his production came from Ben Johnson, actually, and not Sam Laporta. A lot of it was manufactured production. He didn't show and this, I'm not saying Sam Laporta is bad. I'm not saying he's not going to have a good season as well. It's my way of saying that I feel like he's being a little bit overdrafted because a lot of his production was a little bit by design. A lot of his production, any tight end could have done. Now, that's not to say all of his production was that way as well. Like, I still think he's pretty elite, but I have seen him in some cases go in the late 2nd round. That's too early. And this was the early 3rd round. That's too early to me as well. I'd be much more comfortable kind of putting him with that group of tight ends, Dalton Kincaid, Travis Kelce, Trey McBride. I'd be much more comfortable drafting him there. I'd be fine, I guess, drafting him as the tight end 1. I just worry that his production was a little bit manufactured. From there, Zay Flowers, I get Tank Dell. Tank Dell's probably going too high. Again, I don't really love the Houston offense as much as everyone else does. And I think that's more in comparison to the Green Bay Packers, who are just vastly going too late. Like, guys, there's been 4 Houston Texans players taken already, and there's been now 2 Green Bay Packers recently. I mean, that's crazy to me. But let's get caught up here. So why do I like Terry McLaurin? Well, you look at Cliff Kingsbury being the offensive coordinator there. I think that's going to be huge for him. Now, yes, he does have a rookie quarterback, but this feels exactly like the same situation as to when Kyler Murray was brought in. They seem like the exact same quarterbacks. And so Hollywood Brown actually had like one of his breakout years in that first year with Cliff Kingsbury, Terry McLaurin has proven that he is kind of a stud. And so I'm happy to get him there. Again, I would have rather get Josh Jacobs in the 4th round. In some cases, I've been able to get him in the 5th round. That's a little bit crazy to me. Trey McBride, I'm kind of fine with. All these other picks, I'm kind of fine with. Besides T. Higgins, I worry that T. Higgins is not a good NFL receiver in terms of where he's being drafted. I worry that his talent exceeds his ADP. He should not be going that high. Do not like that pick. Maybe a 5th round pick. Like, why is he going over Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley? That worries me, is that last year was just a bad year. And maybe he was banged up. Maybe he's more banged up than we knew, but I don't like that pick. James Cook, just the more stuff that happens this offseason as the offseason has developed for the Buffalo Bills, it kind of just points to James Cook low-key being a stud like he was at the end of the year last year. At the end of the year last year was an RB1 throughout the whole season, late in the season, and that's just like an easy pick to me. On the clock again, let's see what we can do here. I don't mind Jordan Addison actually, but that feels like a little bit of an overdraft. I do have to start thinking about Dak as a pick. Oh man, this is tough. So I'm actually gonna go. I don't like this. I'm gonna go Jake Ferguson there because I need to. Oh, this sucks. This sucks because I really should have went Christian Watson there. And honestly, if I wasn't doing this video, I probably would have. Just because I think Christian Watson could easily give us receiver number 1 upside if he stays healthy throughout the season. He could be the number 1 receiver in the NFL for fantasy football purposes if he stays healthy. That's the thing, though. We haven't seen him healthy for too long of a stretch. The only time that we have was really his rookie year at the end of the year when he was like, I think it was like the 5th best receiver in fantasy. 7th best receiver in fantasy football. We have already seen that from him. It's just not as likely. I don't know. No one's really taking quarterbacks. I might take the risk here and hope that there's not a QB run, and I might just go with Christian Watson. But I already have CeeDee Lamb and Dak. Or CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. I probably need to go Dak here. Yeah, I'm just going to do it. No need to risk it, guys. Best ball drafts, a lot of it is about stacking, and so we'll go Dak there. Hopefully I can get Christian Watson. I doubt it. A little bit unfortunate there. Probably a little bit of a draft mistake there, but I'm fine with that stack there. Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, happy to do that. And so let's go ahead and get kind of caught back up. Yeah, James Cook, I think we're getting RB1 production out of him. And again, you can easily handcuff him if you choose to do so with Ray Davis, who I personally thought for this season was the best running back for fantasy football, depending on where he went. Now, that's not going to be the case this year, but I still really like him. Hollywood Brown, going to be the receiver number 1 for KC. Feel pretty good about that. Keenan Allen, I don't really get the ADP difference between Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. Like, this is not Dynasty. Why is that happening? Keenan Allen is one of those players that until he proves us that he's not physically capable of being a receiver number 1, and I get it. I get why people might be doing that. But until he proves it, like last year, he was still a top 10 receiver in the league. I would argue he was better than DJ Moore last year. You could make that argument. And I get he's 1 more year older and whatnot, over 30 now. People start to worry, but there should not be that big of a difference there. And so Keenan Allen could end up being the receiver number 1 there. And from what I have seen, Keenan Allen has actually developed a better chemistry with Caleb Williams as well. Who, we'll have to see if that holds up throughout the season, but still, I think that's a decent opportunity. I do think Jaden Reed is going a little bit too high. I get it. Jaden Reed's the safe option out of the Packers group. Like, his production, his role is pretty much locked in. But again, going back to Josh Jacobs, the reason why he was brought in is so that they can run the football a little bit more efficiently. The issue with Aaron Jones, it's a little bit hit or miss. It's a roller coaster with him. You need that consistency. And so they brought in Josh Jacobs to do that. And so someone like Jaden Reed, who a lot of his production, kind of like Sam Laporta, and I'm a Packers fan, guys, kind of like Sam Laporta, was a little bit manufactured. Christian Watson's a player that could make those plays as well if healthy, and he might be making those plays. I love Jaden Reed as a talent, don't get me wrong, but I think it should be flipped. I think Watson should be going first. Calvin Ridley, I love as a late receiver number 1. If you are going more, I guess if you're not ending up on receivers, I would love to end up on Calvin Ridley at that ADP. If you can get him in the 6th round, that's huge. I don't mind the idea of kind of a secondary stack of actually Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and then you can get Will Levis extremely late. That can be pretty clutch. From there, again, I didn't like this pick with Jake Ferguson because I do think George Kittle, that the fact that George Kittle is going this late kind of echoes my point of Sam Laporta. George Kittle is a stud. He's going to give you at least like 7 strong weeks out of the tight end position. And it's just insane that he's going that late. So I love that pick. Keon Coleman, I would rather go Khalil Shakir, honestly, than Keon Coleman straight up. And so I'm not taking Keon Coleman. I'm going to get Khalil Shakir much later in drafts. Rome Odunze, that's just an overpick again. That people are buying into the rookie hype a little bit too much. And why would we be picking Rome Odunze before the Packers receiver number 2? It doesn't make any sense. And so now what are we looking at here? I actually don't mind the idea of going Jordan Love here, just because I can still go like Wicks later, and I might do that. I think I'm going to do that. Could also go Romeo Doubs, but the reason why I like going like maybe Dak and Jordan Love is these are 2 of the better quarterbacks in the league, and you can get them at a much cheaper ADP. But with Jordan Love, again, just going back to it, you can get Luke Musgrave extremely late, and I think Tucker Kraft is actually a better tight end. You can get him late as well. And so Jordan Love is just extremely easy to stack. And again, just going back to it, guys, Rome Odunze, potentially the third receiver for the Bears, going before Christian Watson, which to me is just crazy, and right by Jaden Reed as well. And I'm a Packers fan, a little bit biased, but I was right last year, and when I was really, really giving you guys some gung-ho takes there. So I am up again, and I could go Dobbs here, but I'm going to go Khalil Shakir. I kind of mentioned that I would much rather go with Khalil Shakir over Keon Coleman, just with what we saw with Khalil Shakir to be able to get over 500 yards last year on the back end of the season, where he was the receiver number 1 for them. Sorry, Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs. Late in the season, he had Josh Allen's trust. If you look at the end of that playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs, who did Josh Allen miss in the end zone that was wide open to put them ahead in that game? It was Shakir. And that kind of tells me something. That's something we saw consistently last year. That's actually something we saw a little bit in his rookie season. He was one of my deep sleepers last year. That did not come to fruition. I actually thought that was one of my worst takes. Honestly, I'm like, maybe I just missed it. And then late in the season, he started to pop up as really their most reliable weapon. And I think that points more towards why they let go of Diggs and Gabe Davis was the development of Khalil Shakir. They like him. I think he can kind of be a better Cole Beasley, so maybe like a Julian Edelman potentially. And so let's go ahead and get back into that draft board. There are some more picks that we need to get into. So this range here, guys, this is like my ugly range. Jaylen Warren, Jonathan Brooks, Zamir White, Najee Harris. I'm kind of fine with him. Jaden Daniels I kind of get. But I want to talk about Zamir White. And you guys will notice that when you're doing your best ball drafts, Alexander Madison is going in the last round. And that should already be sinking in for you. Alexander Madison is the RB2 in this offense. Maybe. What did we learn from Alexander Madison? It was basically the exact same situation that Zamir White is in right now. Madison, from what we have seen on tape from him throughout his career, looked like a solid RB2. And maybe you thought he could become an RB1. Turns out that was probably wrong. Turns out he needs to be maybe a 1A, 1B option type of running back. That to me is what the Raiders are going to be. But actually, when you watch the film on those two, which player at their peak popped the most? It's actually Alexander Madison. He actually looked better on film. Zamir White is just kind of a guy that's going to get what's blocked to him. And so I worry that people are just kind of saying that Alexander Madison is a bad running back when really he did what he was asked to do most of the season. And who else did that? Zamir White. And so my issue is that they're probably the same player, and I would rather go with the one that's a little bit of a better pass catcher out of the backfield. And I would just much rather get Alexander Madison in the last round than try to reach for Zamir White. Try to reach for, I think this is way higher than what his ceiling should be. I'd rather go Tony Pollard. I'd rather go Devin Singletary, who seems like an extremely safe play. Like if you are someone that's doing a 0 RB strategy, go with Singletary there. That is such a good pick. I just got Chase Brown sniped. I love Chase Brown as a pick. I worry that Zach Moss is not the guy there. Just because if Zach Moss was the guy, I feel like teams would have already been treating him as such. And so this is interesting here. I probably have to go Romeo Doubs here. I'm going to do it. I don't exactly love it, but given the fact that I was able to get Jordan Love, I can go Doubs. Doubs had 8 touchdowns. He is a good red zone threat. That's how they're going to use him. He's going to have several of games where you're going to be able to use him. And what are best ball drafts all about? Kind of getting lucky at the end of the season. I had 46% of my best ball drafts advance out of round 1. And then because Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert got injured as well. But because Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen were both injured at the end of the season, a lot of mine, that 46 is a lot, right? A lot of the ones that had those two did not advance. And what was unfortunate for me is that some of my really good lineups in round 2 did not advance. And those lineups had Amari Cooper. And so a lot of it is about getting lucky. And that's my long way of saying maybe it's a Romeo Doubs week later in the season that helps me out to advance. And easily enough, guys, I can actually go Austin Eckler here. The more I looked at Austin Eckler, the more I'm like, all right, they paid him a decent amount of money to come in and maybe be their pass catching back. But I don't mind that pick. But we're going to go Wicks here. Again, maybe a little bit of Packer biased here, but maybe it's going to end up being like a retrospect type of mistake, going Jordan Love and Dak. But I want to show you the stack I've been able to do now. And so CeeDee Lamb stacked with Jake Ferguson and Dak. Love that there. And then we were able to go Jordan Love with Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks. Wicks is the one where, besides Christian Watson being healthy, like if you think that Christian Watson will not be healthy, Wicks is the guy that I think could actually be the prototypical receiver number one for an offense, the reliable option in an offense. He actually had a little bit of Devontae Adams to him. And so I think he's the player that kind of has the highest ceiling, and I have found myself actually taking him over Dobbs, but I kind of knew I could get both of them. That being said, if Chase Brown was there, I would have taken Chase Brown over Dobbs because I think Chase Brown at his peak, I like to look at players at their peaks, like their best plays, like what is their best that they can present. And then after that, it's like, can they do that at a consistent basis? And I think with Chase Brown, he did show that. He was one of my favorite running backs last year in terms of like value picks. Really liked that spot for him. They brought in Zach Moss, who, is just a prototypical average running back. He's going to give you what's there. And you could argue Joe Mixon was that as well throughout his whole career. And that worked out well for the Bengals. And in ways, I think Zach Moss is a little bit like Joe Mixon minus the pass catching. And to me, Chase Brown has a little bit more upside. And so I'd just rather go with Chase Brown, especially in this draft where you look at it, Zach Moss went in round 8, Chase Brown went in round 10. That is probably closer to a 50-50. They should not be that far apart. Let's get into some other stuff here. Mike Williams, I actually don't mind that pick. If he is healthy going into training camp, his ADP is probably going to go up a little bit. Let's see other picks. Tua, this is going back to it. This is where I probably should have went with Tyreek Hill, so I could have paired him with Tua. Because look at the difference between Tua and Dak. And I know people are worried about the end of playoff schedule and whatnot. I get that. That's something to be concerned about. But at the end of the day, Amari Cooper was supposed to have one of the worst schedules for the playoffs last year. And he carried people to the championship round with one massive performance. But that's something to keep in mind. Shaheed, I do like that pick. Cooks is someone I could have taken instead of Wicks to potentially pair with my Dak stack. Let's see here. Josh Downs, I'm kind of fine with that. Mitchell, I'm kind of fine with that. You're guessing as to which one it's going to be. Tajay Spears does feel like a solid pick. But I like Spears and I like Pollard, but this is kind of my way of saying that Tennessee offense you can stack. A little bit surprised Austin Eckler is going that late. Oh, Quentin Johnston. I love Quentin Johnston as a late round pick, guys. I know he had his drop issues. And that is something to be concerned about. But let's say you turn 2 of those into catches. I think the whole narrative on him is much, much different because you probably would have 2 more touchdowns and probably closer to 80 more yards. And oh no, that'd be much more appealing. I'm saying oh no because Rico Dwaddle is also one of my favorite late round steals and he got stolen. Oh, this is starting to get annoying for me now. All right, so I got to lock in here. I don't exactly know what to do here, honestly. Again, TJ Hawkinson, I think, will be someone that we're drafting because we're expecting him to be active later on in the season. Oh, this is tough. I actually really hate this spot right now. Running out of time here. I don't want a handcuff. That's probably dumb. Oh, I didn't. Okay, that's fine. That's good. I didn't have Josh Jacobs. That's actually fine. Whew. I'll talk about that pick in a second. I feel like I got sniped so much in this draft. Maybe people are just sharper right now. It's a little bit annoying. But I'm going to go Luke Musgrave in this next pick. Do I think Luke Musgrave on a per game basis is going to score more than TJ Hawkinson? I do not. TJ Hawkinson, though, I do expect to be out for 7 weeks. I do expect him to come back after their bye week. It just makes logical sense. You don't want to rush him back, especially kind of in a season where it's probably going to be a lost season. And the reason why I like Luke Musgrave is you can pair him up late with Tucker Kraft. And that might seem like a lost idea to people, but I really think if you pair those two together, you are drafting a top 10 tight end. Because I do think there will be weeks where it's more Luke Musgrave. I do think there's going to be weeks where it's more Tucker Kraft. I prefer Tucker Kraft out of both of them, especially comparing ADP. But Tucker Kraft is coming in to training camp with a shoulder injury, so that is something to be slightly concerned about. So I have found myself getting to more of Luke Musgrave, but Tucker Kraft is my most drafted player right now. And if you guys followed my coverage last year with Luke Musgrave, he should have been a top tight end when he was healthy. He just kept making mistakes. And a lot of people will point to like Jordan Love struggling last year and just saying that he's a bad quarterback and just all these bad takes that they actually watched it. If you actually watched it, you saw players like like Luke Musgrave making mistakes with their routes. Maybe the chemistry wasn't there, but you could always default to blaming the pass catcher. If that was Patrick Mahomes in those exact same situations, they would have been blaming those pass catchers. If it was Aaron Rodgers, they would have been blaming those pass catchers. But because the media and just people in the NFL did not like Jordan Love for whatever reason, he got the blame when really, if you watched it, there was a lot of times where players were making mistakes route-wise and just turning the wrong shoulder. That happened a lot. That happened a lot with Luke Musgrave. Nice thing is the production was there, though. Just didn't produce it with that. And so let's continue on here. So looking at the draft, I didn't like that Marshawn Lloyd pick, but I guess I didn't have Josh Jacobs. I thought I did, but that's right. Josh Jacobs got taken a little bit before than when he did. And so let's say maybe Josh Jacobs does get banged up. I mean, that's a pretty clutch pick. Probably have a little bit too much Packers exposure, especially because I will be going Tucker Kraft. But I do think they're going to be one of the best offenses. And this is kind of my point of why draft the Bears, why draft Houston when you can get this Packers offense that was one of the best last year and is still going to be one of the best this year. You could also do that with the Rams in some capacity. Stafford's going late, but the other players are going a little bit earlier. Obviously, Puka and also Cooper Kupp. I'm really mad that I wasn't able to get Quentin Johnston or Rico Dwaddle. I do think that that's a big pick. So Rico Dwaddle, let's touch on this. I think that Dwaddle is going to be like Tony Pollard 2 years ago. I really do. He flashed that last year. I think that's part of the reason why they're happy to probably not happy, but okay with letting go Tony Pollard. Rico Dwaddle is someone that was very impressive. Again, looking at players at their peak, he was Tony Pollard. I actually think he'll be the person that scores the most points out of this Dallas Cowboys offense, and I'm very mad that I didn't get him here. He's the one player that I want to try to get more of, and I have gotten a lot of him, but that's an easy pick. I want to call it another kind of sneaky stack you can run out. Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson, who's going in the 7th round, and then you can get Bryce Young basically at the end of your drafts. That's a sneaky secondary stack. And I am up again. And I'm probably going Ray Davis here. I need to get some running back exposure. I kind of already mentioned my love for Ray Davis. Again, he's one injury away from being a stud. And I like that draft pick. To me, he was the best running back going into the draft, healthy-wise. Obviously, Jonathan Brooks, if he was healthy, we'd be saying him or I'd be saying him, but that was not the case. But again, getting into that Carolina stack, it's a great secondary stack, and a lot of people are going to be like, Bryce Young, why would I want to take Bryce Young? He looked terrible last year. He did. Baker Mayfield looked terrible last year, and guess what? Baker Mayfield put up some great stats. Baker Mayfield had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin to throw to, which really helped. I would argue that Bryce Young doesn't have someone he can just throw it up to and have them go get the ball. That is a concern, but I'm kind of okay with it. And so now we're kind of at a weird spot. I'm going to go Demario Douglas just because I don't want to miss out on getting him. He is going to be the receiver number 1. It seems like a very solid pick. And now I have a very solid roster as a whole. That's kind of my theme with this roster, is that it's a lot of solid production, maybe not enough spike production. But then, going back to Bryce Young, I'll touch on that, finish that point. A lot of times Baker was bailed out by being able to just throw it up to Mike Evans, and let him do his thing. That is the one concern with Bryce Young, is that he has a lot of players like Adam Thielen. Leggett is who they're hoping can be that. But Mingo and also Deontay Johnson, those are guys that can get open with their footwork. And some people are probably going to say, Mingo can't get open with his footwork. He's not good with his foot. Mingo is not good in man coverage off the line. Once he's off the line, he's fine. But the point is, Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen should present some quick passing options to him, to extend drives. And so Bryce Young is just going too late. Bryce Young is someone that's going to be a guaranteed starter this year for all the games. He's like the last guaranteed starting quarterback that you can pick. There is a lot of value in that, especially when you can get his top 2 passing weapons, most likely extremely late in drafts. So I really do like that pick as well. So why did I go Demario Douglas? Demario Douglas, to me, is going to be the receiver number 1 for that Patriots receiving core. Some people might like Kendrick Bourne. That could end up being true. The thing is, we don't really know, but I do think Drake May is also kind of a good late. Really, the Patriots are a late secondary stacking option that you can roll out with, and I'd be okay with that. But he popped last year. Kind of unfortunate that he was banged up, but I like that. So it's just a safe pick, and that's the theme of my roster. Besides the running backs here with Lloyd and Davis, got to get lucky there. But if I do, this lineup does have that staying upside. I do want to talk about Bucky Irving, because earlier on in the video, I kind of mentioned with CMC that, once running backs start to get over that 300 plus yard touches total, that's when they start to become more likely to get injured the next season. Well, who did that last year? Rashad White. Rashad White was someone that throughout the season did not look good, but was still productive. And then as the season progressed, actually did start to look decent. But he's someone that we don't expect to be that good again this year. He just wasn't good on film. The production did not match how he looked on film, if that makes sense. A lot of it was forced production. And so maybe that's just going to be Bucky Irving here, who is a pretty solid rookie running back, could present some upside there. But again, we haven't seen him, so we don't exactly know. Bryce Young just went as well. I am up on the board. Probably Tucker Kraft or Alexander Madison here. Typically, I would have my queue set and just be ready to go. I'm going to go Tucker Kraft here. Don't want to miss out on him. And then I'm going to go Alexander Madison as well. I don't want to miss out on him because, again, I do think he presents RB1 upside. I'll show you a pick that I was mad that just happened. Will Levis still there. I mean, that's crazy. Baker Mayfield's still there. That's crazy. I don't like Baker. I think Baker's terrible. I think he could end up kind of having a Daniel Jones type year. But, I mean, Will Levis isn't good. I think it's crazy that Wilson is going this late. If you do like a zero QB strategy, guys, I love getting Wilson late. I love getting Will Levis, J.J. McCarthy late. It's just a nice strategy to roll with. So again, in my queue, Alexander Madison, happy to take him. He could be the RB1 for the Raiders. It's not like he had a bad year either, guys. Almost 1,000 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. I think the reason why they brought in Cam Akers is because they realized he wasn't a workhorse running back, and that's fine. He's not going to be asked to be that tier with the Raiders. That's just an easy pick for me there. And yeah, Bryce Young went late. I don't mind Tyrone Tracy. I get kind of the upside and appeal for him, especially if you are someone. But that's like if you draft Devin Singletary, Tracy's going late. You could easily handcuff him there. And I know that's not the thing you're supposed to do. But again, this year, it's kind of one of those years where I'm kind of okay with that, just given how late they're going. The one player I was mad about getting drafted is Braylon Allen. People are starting to realize that he is the Jets' RB2. And who is someone that's been banged up? Breece Hall. Who is someone that maybe they don't want to have the goal line work because they want him to stay healthy? Who is the big back? Well, it was Breece Hall there. Who's the big back that can punch in touchdowns, that did that for Wisconsin? That was that Wisconsin running back. Braylon Allen, who is the youngest player in the NFL draft that, still probably has fresh legs. Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen is someone that handcuff-wise, especially if you're someone that drafted Breece Hall, was he? No, he was not, this person here. But, this is a handcuff that somewhat makes sense, but he could hold his own individual value as well. It's not going to be huge. But Braylon Allen late, guys, he was someone that was going in the last round of drafts. I tweeted out that he was a steal at that point. People are starting to figure it out, just like they're starting to figure out Alexander Madison. A little bit unfortunate, but yeah, I love that pick there right there because he does hold upside. RB2 in that Jets offense that has Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson potentially going in the first round. People are betting on that offense being great, and I kind of get it. And so I need to get my queue lined up here. I'm going to go Kyron Williams here, but I want to show you guys kind of my late round queue. Not Kyron Williams, sorry, Ronnie Rivers here. Again, I kind of mentioned that. If I'm drafting Kyron, I'm going to go with Rivers. But late round here, again, this is crazy. This is why I typically like to go one of Dak or Jordan Love, whatever quarterback early, and then just pair it up with Will Levis, J.J. McCarthy. You could do, but also Sam Darnold in some pinches, I think is a decent option. Russell Wilson late, going to be the starter for the Steelers. We've seen Justin Fields suck. I kind of get the appeal of Justin Fields in a draft like DraftKings, where it's a bigger field and you can get away with more roster spots, but I think that's a little bit too crazy. But let's look here. A.T. Perry, I already mentioned my love for Rashid Shaheed, but A.T. Perry is someone that was solid. He looked like Michael Thomas last year, and that didn't exactly come to fruition until later on in the season, but solid player. I think he's going too late. He should not be going undrafted. Kendrick Bourne could end up actually being the receiver number 1 for the Patriots. Was very productive while he was healthy last year, so I don't mind him. He's someone that I put in my late round queue. Depending on my draft, I might go with him. Will Shipley's okay. Kind of need to see it first. From there, we can take a big jump. Trey Palmer's okay. He was productive for Tampa Bay. 1 injury away. He's kind of a weird receiver handcuff for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I am up. I'm going to go Ronnie Rivers here. My draft is now complete. Hopefully it doesn't kick me out. Yoshiva. Guys, a lot of people are expecting Jermaine Burton to be the receiver number 3, and I get it. I love the talent that Jermaine Burton had, but Yoshiva is someone that they really loved. He popped in the preseason, was on the field a decent amount last year as well. I think with Joe Burrow there and with the potential that T. Higgins maybe will sit, maybe he's not as good as we think he is, there's a path where Yoshiva becomes the receiver number 2 in this offense. And again, I really did like Jermaine Burton. I guess there's a little bit of not off the field issues, but I don't know, just maybe potential chemistry issues in the locker room. I didn't read into that too much, but that'll do it. And so he's someone that I really do like late as well. And then another one, kind of a sneaky one, Parker Washington. If you draft Trevor Lawrence and you're looking for another receiver to stack with him in that offense, Parker Washington, solid second-year receiver, was productive in some parts of the season last year, could take that next step. So he was someone that I didn't think was a bad pick as well. I don't mind the idea of going Tank Bigsby as well at the end of your drafts. But that's the thing with these. Tank Bigsby probably going to be a handcuff there. Deonta Foreman could be the starting running back for Cleveland until Nick Chubb is healthy. But that's the thing, is that honestly, underdog drafts are almost too easy to make a good lineup, to make a good draft. Whereas DraftKings is almost more talent. Like, you're getting rewarded more for your knowledge. But at the same time, you could argue that makes underdog, with its limited 18 rounds, is not enough. It's just not. With its limited draft size, you are forced to maybe reach for some people that you typically wouldn't have. Like I said, I don't typically draft Ronnie Rivers, but because of the draft, because of going Kyren Williams, I actually don't mind handcuffing him there, because what other last round running back can you get that could potentially maybe hold RB1 upside? And I know people are going to think I'm crazy for saying that. But let's just show you guys this draft one last time here. So CeeDee Lamb I went with. Again, I probably should just... Oh, I couldn't go Tyreek Hill. I would have loved to have gone Tyreek Hill there to be able to go with Tua there, but it's super easy to stack. Jamar Chase, this person was able to do with Joe Burrow, so easy there. Justin Jefferson, let's see if they did. They did. Late in the draft, they were able to get J.J. McCarthy late. I actually, in this scenario, I might have went Sam Darnold, because he went with Anthony Richardson, who's a little bit injury prone, and Geno Smith. I don't know. It's just... I get why they went J.J. McCarthy, but a little bit dicey, but still was able to pair Justin Jefferson up with J.J. McCarthy. That's fine. That's solid. Puka, this person was able to go Puka and then get Matthew Stafford late as well. It's just super easy to stack. And so did I need to do the double stack? I did. Maybe not, but I do think Dallas is still going to be one of the best offenses. And I think the Green Bay Packers are still going to be one of the best offenses. So I don't mind getting my exposure of CeeDee Lamb, Dak, Jake Ferguson. And then I probably went one too many Green Bay Packers, but Jordan Love, Dobbs, Wicks, and then Lloyd, like that was maybe a little bit of overkill there, maybe a little bit of overexposure. But again, I like the idea of going Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, because I feel like combined on a weekly basis, one of those two are going to pop to be a top 10 tight end. Madison's going vastly too late. Madison went in round 17. Zamir White went in round 8. It should not be that case. It should probably be like 11 and 12. It should probably be like Rico Dwaddle and Zeke. I get why people are kind of taking Zeke first, but it should be like that. There shouldn't be that difference. I would argue I'd rather have both Rico Dwaddle and Zeke, though, before Zamir White. That was just a weird pick. And then again, Rivers, just because I think there's a potential that he could actually be the RB2. I don't mind getting Blake Corum separately from Kyren Williams in some spots where I went with more of a zero RB strategy, hoping to get lucky, hoping to finally get a rookie running back that Sean McVay can trust, but that's obviously just a guessing game. So this was an extremely long video, but lots of tidbits going into it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this coverage. If you did, make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. That's going to be all. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck in your best ball drafts. If you guys want me to do like a live stream version of that, I'd be happy to. But yeah, good stuff. Thanks for watching. And as always, let's keep cashing.